You stand in the dim shadows of a dilapidated villa on the outskirts of Rome, where the first faint glow of dawn struggles to pierce the heavy veil of morning fog on June 9, 68 AD. The atmosphere hangs thick with the acrid scent of dread and despair, mingling with the damp earth and distant whispers of the Tiber. Through the weathered, splintering door, a voice echoes, a voice that once commanded empires, ignited infernos for amusement, and silenced kin with ruthless finality now reduced to the broken whimpers of a terrified soul. Once honed to captivate vast amphitheatres with lyrical grace, it falters and this is Nero Claudius Caesar Augustus Germanicus, the fifth emperor of Rome, in his wretched final hours. The tyrant who unleashed brutality upon his pregnant wife, who mutilated a youth to mimic, yet to grasp how the apex of worldly might descended to this abject nadir, we must journey back to the venomous corridors of imperial intrigue, where a youthful deviant first savoured the bitter tang of bloodshed. Before we plunge into these veiled tales of endurance and anguish, if the enigmatic threads of history captivate your spirit, I invite you to press that like button and subscribe for more explorations like this. And share in the comments the corner of the globe from which you join us. I am awestruck that we traverse these timeless narratives together, bound across eras and distances by our collective thirst. On December 15th, 37 AD, in the coastal haven of Antium, a child emerges into the world as the dawn's initial beams caress his form, an augury that Romans would later interpret as a harbinger of his incendiary temperament. But Lucius Domitius Ahenobarbus, as he was initially named, entered existence already marred. His great-great-grandfather paraded through Gaul astride an elephant, flaunting the decapitated heads of foes as macabre ornaments. His grandfather savagely blinded a Roman knight in the Forum for daring to voice dissent. His father, Gnaeus Domitius Ahenobarbus, embodied such ferocity that, upon receiving felicitations for his son's birth, he uttered with how eerily prescient those syllables would resonate. The infant's mother, Agrippina the Younger, stood as perhaps the most perilous figure in Rome, sibling to Emperor Caligula, great-granddaughter of Augustus. She wielded the lethal fusion of royal lineage and unyielding aspiration. Already exiled for conspiring against her brother, she had interred one spouse under dubious shadows and plotted ceaselessly to elevate her offspring to the pinnacle of dominion. At merely 3 years of age, Lucius lost his father, rumours swirled of venom, though some attributed it to dropsy, claiming the brute at last. The child inherited a portion of the estate, yet even this meagre share was plundered when Caligula confiscated the family's riches. Agrippina was consigned to a desolate. With Caligula's assassination in 41 AD and her uncle Claudius's improbable ascension, she maneuvered her return through seduction's art, first wedding Gaius Sallustius Passienus, among Rome's wealthiest, who perished conveniently post-nuptials, bequeathing her his opulence. Then, her gaze fixed upon the supreme trophy, but Messalina erred fatally by enacting a mock union with her paramour Silius amid her imperial marriage. Whether inebriated jest or genuine sedition, it carved the chasm Agrippina exploited. Messalina met the blade, and Agrippina advanced with lethal precision. Envision the tableau. Emperor Claudius, a stuttering, salivating elder in his 60s, utterly ensnared by his radiant niece. Incestuous bonds between uncle and niece defied Roman edicts, yet imperial whim rendered laws ephemeral. In 49 AD, she persuaded Claudius to adopt her progeny, renaming him Nero Claudius Caesar Drusus Germanicus. At 13, he donned the toga virilis, but Agrippina's impatience simmered. In October 54 AD, Claudius dined and never stirred anew. Officially, gastric distress from fungi felled him, yet Rome's whispers unveiled the verity. Claudius perished in torment, his frame writhing as the venom corroded his vitals. At 17, Nero claimed mastery over the civilized realm. Initial portents glimmered auspiciously, or so they feigned. The nascent ruler's debut decrees suggested clemency and sagacity. When presented a warrant for execution, a routine imperial rite, he lamented, "Would that I had never mastered script." He alleviated levies, bestowed bounties upon the populace, vowing governance in Augustus's mould. Yet intimates discerned the fissures beneath the veneer. His mentor Seneca would later confess nightmares of instructing another Caligula, a vision that materialized fatefully. For while Nero professed mercy publicly, privately he schemed his inaugural slaying. His stepbrother Britannicus, Claudius's natural offspring and latent contender. Britannicus, a mere 14, was a reticent youth devoid of ambition's fire. Yet in Nero's shadowed psyche, his mere breath, as the assembly gazed in stupefied dread, the lad sipped and convulsed instantaneously. His visage blued, eyes inverted, and he crumpled, limbs quaking as the venom scorched his essence. Nero dined onward serenely, attributing it to epilepsy, a known affliction of the boy. Britannicus expired swiftly, froth cascading from his lips, body contorted in terminal anguish. Nero commanded the corpse's removal and the feast's resumption. A proposal for medical aid elicited glacial dismissal. Unnecessary, merely a seizure. Yet this marked but the dawn. The beast was awakening to blood's allure. In his reign's nascent years, Nero remained tethered by 3 guiding luminaries: his mother, Agrippina, tutor Seneca, and praetorian prefect Burrus. This triumvirate, dubbed the virtuous stewards, curbed his basest urges. Beneath their vigilance, the empire savoured the Quinquennium Neronis, a quinquennial of tranquility and affluence. Having sampled sovereignty's zenith as regent mother, she clung tenaciously. She asserted prerogatives, mandatory counsel on affairs of state, enthronement beside him in rights, even co-portrayal on currency. Nero Poppaea embodied Agrippina's antithesis. Youthful, alluring, voluptuous, unbound by ethics, she sowed discord in Nero's ear, asserting his sovereignty illusory while Agrippina pulled strings, reducing him to marionette. Agrippina, perceiving the menace, countered with her arsenal. Overt endorsement of Britannicus, insinuating regret in favouring Nero over Claudius's true heir. A lethal blunder. The emperor decreed his mother's demise. Yet, eradicating Agrippina demanded cunning. Beloved by legions and masses, shielded by devoted wardens, she had outlasted myriad attempts, paranoid against toxins with tasters and antidotes. Nero devised an ostensibly fortuitous demise. His inaugural ploy, a bespoke vessel for her voyage, engineered with a collapsible canopy to the scheme, lure her to Baiae's festivities, embark her for return, trigger calamity offshore. On March 23, 59 AD, Agrippina exuded elation. Convinced her son accorded her due reverence as imperial matriarch, she boarded with confidant Acerronia and attendants, oblivious to the engineered snare. In profound waters, the device activated. Lead-laden roof plummeted with the tenacity that had defied Caligula's lunacy and Claudius's suspicions. Agrippina, news of her endurance hurled Nero into frenzy. Pretense shattered, Agrippina discerned her assailant and would mobilize. Mere hours separated him from her reprisal. He summoned Anicetus, Messene fleet's admiral and Trapp's architect. Conclude it this eve. Anicetus's cohort encircled her villa as she summoned allies. They breached her chamber, where she, seawater-drenched, dispatched pleas. Confronting her doom in the intruder's steel, Agrippina rose with lifelong poise, gazing unflinchingly, her parting decree: "Plunge first into my womb, the cradle of such abomination." The warriors paused, awed by Germanicus's daughter, Caesar's kin, their sovereign's progenitor. Yet duty prevailed. Blades descended relentlessly, rending until Agrippina the Younger, Rome's mightiest matron, sprawled amid her vitae. Confirmation of her end evoked not sorrow in Nero, but liberation. The architect of his crown, turned oppressor, vanished. Unfettered, he could reign unbound. Yet matricide's spectre would stalk him eternally. Romans might tolerate rivals' dispatch, but maternal slaughter profaned familial sanctity and divine order. Gossips ignited. Nero not only slew her but invaded her sanctum post mortem, appraising her nude form's grace. Veracity aside, this macabre lore encapsulated Nero's metamorphosis from callous youth to inhuman spectre. He had traversed an irrevocable threshold, committing an abomination that eroded his humanity, and graver horrors loomed. With Agrippina interred and mentors waning, Nero plunged into hedonism with murderous fervor. He hurled himself into chariot arenas, staged recitals for elite circles, and pursued liaisons that appalled Rome's worldly patricians. His union with Octavia, political artifact, lacked passion's flame. She, demure and principled, epitomized the staid virtues Nero scorned. He favored Poppaea, who had severed ties with Otho to court him brazenly. Ambitious, scheming, devoid of scruple, she viewed power as elixir, deploying allure as armament. Under her sway, Nero elevated homicide from exigency to diversion. First fell Marcus Junius Silanus, Augustine's scion, poisoned for lineage alone. Then Rubellius Plautus, imperial kin, beheaded on spurious grounds. Soon, intimates imperiled. Burrus succumbed suspiciously, throat ailment proclaimed, toxin suspected. Seneca retreated, his sway dissolved. By 62 AD, 5 years enthroned, Nero had purged restraints, accountable to none, terrorized all, inebriated by dominion over multitudes. Then Octavia's fate sealed. Faultless save barrenness and obstructing Poppaea, she merited death in Nero's gaze. Yet her popularity, echo of cherished Claudius, emblem of virtue, complicated matters. Divorce attempted, citing consanguinity, public ire rebuffed it. Adultery accusations followed, implicating slaves, torture extracted fabrications, cries resounding in dungeons, yet Romans repudiated the calumnies. Poppaea's espousal sparked upheavals. Mobs besieged the palace, clamoring Octavia's reinstatement. Her effigies desecrated. Nero faltered briefly, riots evoking his dependence on vox populi. He reinstated Octavia transiently, exiling Poppaea. But Poppaea retaliated, framing riots as conspiracy, Octavia as plotter. Nero, pliable, assented. Octavia arrested for treason and infidelity, banished to At 20, Octavia confronted soldiers. Lifelong pawn in machinations, wed as child for pacts, discarded at caprice, she met end with unyielding grace. Bound, veins severed, she ebbed gently into void, invoking Claudius and Britannicus's shades in farewell supplication. Her cranium, severed and conveyed to Rome, gifted Poppaea grotesquely. Gazing upon her rival's relic, she beamed triumphantly. 12 days hence, Nero and Poppaea wed extravagantly. Palace aglow with aurum and gems, libations boundless, Nero crooning his nuptial ode. Rome gained an empress forged atop cadaver. Yet as revelry peaked, Nero's inner demon hungered for grandeur in ruin. Spectacle beckoned. Soon, Rome would blaze. The Great Fire ignited July 18, 64 AD, amid Circus Maximus shops, perhaps a toppled lamp or neglected hearth. Arid summer rendered timber abodes kindling, gales for 6 days and 7 nights. Inferno ravaged teeming quarters. Flames vaulted structures, ensnaring alleys in suffocating haze and cascading ruins. Fortunate fled to Campus Martius or elite estates, witnessing apocalypse. The doomed perished in blazes more, wails drowned in fury's din. Accounts diverge on Nero's locus. Some posit Antium, hastening return. Others depict him marshalling aid, sheltering refugees in his halls. Yet Tacitus's indictment endures. Amid conflagration, Nero ascended a spire, intoning Homer's Iliad, Troy's pyre, infusing verse with theatrical zeal. As subjects fled, literal or emblematic, it distilled Nero's estrangement from empathy, enraptured by aesthetic amid agony. Ruin as tableau, not lament. Extinguished, devastation spanned, or 14 districts, 4 intact, remainder desolation, myriads homeless, fortunes ash, fatalities innumerable, charred husks compounding miasma over scarred metropolis. For Nero, cataclysm birthed vision. Amid smouldering remnants, he toured with draftsmen, envisioning a reborn Rome eclipsing antiquity. The Domus Aurea Golden House, his opus, sprawling from Palatine to Esquiline, 300 acres commandeered. Revolving banquet hall mimicked obscenity lay in haste. Corpses unearthed as laborers raised survivors for imperial whims. Dispossessed beheld homes morph into Nero's pleasance. Murmurs arose. Arson deliberate. Land coveted for vanity. Whispers proliferated in camps. Nero orchestrated blaze to recast Rome in his like. Nero, attuned, sought diversion. Christians scapegoated. This Eastern sect alien, revering executed felon, prophesying fiery apocalypse suited vilification. Romans deemed them aberrant, menacing. Ensuing purge, sadistic pageant. Gardens hosted pitch-smeared victims, others animal-clad, mauled by hounds, crucified in mythic guises for aesthetic flair. Nero orchestrated, directing poses, illumination, critiquing as dramaturg of torment. Yet bloodlust escalated. By 65 AD, Poppaea bore Claudia Augusta. Paternity briefly softened Nero, lavishing devotion. Public feasts heralded her, yet her infantile demise at 4 months unleashed fury fatal to Poppaea. Accounts vary, but concur. Pregnant. She in vision. Poppaea, burdened with life, challenging excesses, weary of subordination to steeds and spectacles, or cognizant of his uncontrollability, Nero loomed, unrepentant, vexed by defiance. Slaves summoned for disposal, he resumed schemes. Poppaea's void gnawed accomplice, lost, soulmate in vice. Seeking surrogate, he fixated on Sporus. Adolescent slave resembling her ethereal traits, aureate locks, lithe grace. In deranged fancy, Nero commanded Sporus's emasculation. Physicians, healers oath-bound, restrained the youth. Cauterized steel excised manhood amid shrieks, Nero observing complacently to preserve perpetual femininity evoking Poppaea. Torment commenced, transformation culminated in matrimonial farce. Sporus veiled as bride, dowry exchanged, rites solemnized amid nobles' muted horror. Post-ceremony, Nero proclaimed him empress, court obliged. Litter paraded them publicly, Rome agog at depravity. Privately, concurrently, Nero's terror radiated outward. Nobles compelled to gladiatorial bouts or histrionic turns, lineages humbled for sport. Resistors like Silanus opted self-slaughter. Seneca, summoned to end Nero's nocturnal prowls, incognito with cohorts, assaulting denizens, pummeling merchants, violating matrons, slaying whimsically. Resistance morphed to treason, banquets eternal. From dusk, as infamy disseminated, allegiance waned. Legions remote heard disquiet. Governors withdrew fealty. Praetorians murmured. Nero, self-enamored, dismissed as envy. In hubris, he embarked Greece tour 66 to 67 AD. Competing festival, Olympics, chariot ejection, yet laureled for intent. 1,800 wreaths accrued. Rome return, aped Augustus's triumphs but artistic, not martial. Provinces ignited. Vindex in Gaul rebelled. Galba amassed forces in Spain. Unrest rippled. Nero greeted with theatrical glee, envisioning punitive spectacles, composing odes, costuming returns. Delusions framed revolt as stage, yet escalation pierced illusion. Galba advanced. Nero's retort. Egyptian artistic retreat, deferring crisis. Rome unraveled. Praetorians defected. Senators conspired. June 8, 68 AD. Nero awoke guardless. Senate branded hostis publicus, flogging decreed. Isolation absolute, retainers fled, slaves absconded. Terror's edifice crumbled. Finale unveiled craven core. Palace wanderings, lamenting, beseeching Sporus's solace, the mutilated youth, empress, garbed, sole captive companion. Facing Galba's approach, Nero schemed Parthian flight, artistic exile among foes. Allies scarce, flatterers evaporated. Desperate, he sought Phaon's villa refuge, 4 miles distant. Humiliating trek, afoot, cloaked, through groves emperor reduced, accompanied by Phaon, Epaphroditos, Neophytus, Sporus in guise. Arrival, tunneled ingress, Nero crawling to basement lair. Spartan quarters mocked opulence, dawn illuminated despair. Companions distant, Sporus tear, streaked. Messengers bore doom. Galba ensconced, Senate ratified execution, naked flogging, Tiber disposal. Praetorians hunted head, palace looted, treasures pilfered, costumes contested. Hearing, Nero shattered, sobbing over baubles, uncomprehending crime's toll. Hooves neared. Epaphroditos urged, act. Their vengeance mirrors yours. Panic surged. Visions of inflicted horrors reversed. Not thus I am Caesar, artist divine. Phaon coaxed, die nobly, ancestral valor. Suicide loomed, Roman ideal. Yet Nero, vicarious killer, recoiled. My hands create beauty. Neophytus reframed. Grandest performance exit memorably. Enthused momentarily, Nero staged. Magnificent ballads eternal. But riders closed. Messenger warned imminent capture. Dagger grasped tremblingly. Aid me. Epaphroditos assented. Nero pressed blade to throat, faltered. Soldiers breached. Now, thrust bungled, wounding shallowly. Gurgling, he fell. Epaphroditos deepened. Arterial flood ensued. Gasping. Qualis artifex perio. Narcissism undimmed. Artist lost, not tyrant felled. Soldier discovered. Corpse amid blood. Companion sporus. Stark irony. Grandeurs parody. Rome erupted jubilant. Streets alive. Victims honored. Nero effaced. Provinces fetid. Senate damned. Memoria chiseled names. Smelted idols. Yet erasure failed. Chroniclers Tacitus, Suetonius, Dio catalogued with revulsion. Nero's fall ended Julio Claudian's. Year of 4 emperors, ensued chaos of unchecked power. Legacy. Cautionary spectre. Parallels to despots. Ego fused with atrocity. Enabled by toadies. Power's corruption laid bare. Nero, god aspirant, perished forsaken. Loyalty feigned, evaporated. Final words, unlearned delusion. Poetic justice. Violence's architect terrorized. Performer abandoned. Promised mercy yielded madness. Death no tragedy, but emancipation. Monster slain. Scars lingered as eternal admonition against power's abyss. Blood seeping into earth. Terror's curtain fell not in grandeur, but cowards'